This person that used to be a sergeant in the California Highway Patrol told me that he never saw anyone surviving that crash after the 20 some years of experience that he had. And I candidly replied, I didn't, because he asked me, how did you survive? I didn't. And in fact, I didn't. The reason why I came back is a story that I'm going to tell today.
Hi, everyone. One more episode of our beautiful channel, In Dying, I Began to Live. And wow, today with you again here, Ingrid Honkala.
Francisco
I'm
Valentín.
and I'm Ana Cecilia Gonzalez. Very nice having you all here.
This is so good to be here again with you. And I wanted to share with you something really amazing. Our last or our first video in English, each one of us talk a little bit of our stories. And I started to receive a lot of messages saying, but I want to know more of Ana. I want to know more of Francisco. And it was this feeling of like, oh, wow. Yeah. What about if we just,
Yes, me too.
yeah.
Because we have an audience. We all have an audience, each one in their own channel. And it is very good for everybody to get to really know us, who we are. So we want to introduce everybody to our own channel. So yeah, it's very beautiful that everybody wants to know about us, all of our groups.
Yeah, yeah. I thought what I will create a space with each one of us can share their experience. What do you think, Francisco?
No, I'm super, super excited to this episode because today I'm going to share with you all uh, my experience, who I am,
Who you are.
why am I here, and what is the
Yes.
purpose of this platform, and why we're all together doing this.
Yeah. So
Great. I'm looking forward for this.
we're going to do it like in we will share this episode with you, Francisco, sharing one with Ana and one with me, so all our audiences can get to know the three of us before we go answering or more questions or doing other episodes, because this way maybe a lot of the questions already get clear just by us sharing. So what
Sharing our
about,
stories. You're right.
yeah, what about
That's
Francisco?
great.
Just share with us. I want to know
So,
everything about you.
Francisco, go ahead. We're really excited about listening to your story.
Okay, well, let me start from the beginning. Uh, I am, like you know, my name is Francisco Valentin. I am the author, publisher, and custodian of the transcripts. And that's the reason why I want to tell my stories so you know what brought me here today. But starting from the beginning, everything started back in 1979, one summer day, 1979, when I barely turned 18, and due to a terrible car accident, I died. And when I came back from that experience, I came back knowing things that people don't teach in school. To give you my experience, the even though the story is lengthy, and because we're limited in time, I'm going to talk about the experience, not of the accident per se, but the actual event that took place once I died. As a matter of fact, the last thing that I remember is holding the steering wheel, receiving the side impact when I was hit by a car over 60 miles an hour, and I went straight into the void. Just to give you a magnitude of the extent of the car accident, the driver's door ended up by the center console, and there I was,
Wow.
trapped in my car, uh,
Wow.
and and I died. Period. As a matter of fact, when I showed the video or the slide in a slide presentation, the car, how it ended up, which actually you can see the car because we have it in our webpage. This person that used to be a sergeant in the California Highway Patrol told me that he never saw anyone surviving that crash after the 20 some years of experience that he had. And I candidly replied, I didn't, because he asked me, how did you survive? I didn't. And in fact, I didn't. The reason why I came back is a story that I'm going to tell today. But for you to help you understand what happened to me on the other side, upon the impact, my soul detached from my physical body, because the soul cannot inhabit a lifeless body. I do not recall any pain because my soul detached from my physical body right at the moment of impact, so I didn't feel any pain. When I was on the other side, I can recall and I can describe it as the void, what most people call the black void. I didn't see lost loved ones or the tunnel or the doorway or any of the other description that people claim that they had when they have a death or near what most people call a near death experience. I went straight into the void. And while I was in the void, I was confused because I was raised as a Catholic since childhood. And at that time, I didn't know that I was dead. But at that time, what I experienced was confusion, because one of the key reminders or key points that I want to bring forward in this conversation is that I knew that I was myself. I did not become an angel or a ghost or a spirit or something else that some people claim that it happened. And that's what I thought that it was going to happen if I were to die based on my Christian beliefs. But none of that happened. Nevertheless, I didn't know that I was dead. It's just that I'm giving you a clarification for when I came back and I started going over what happened to me and how the experience went, that I realized that, wait a minute, if I died and I didn't become this or that and I was still myself, so what else am I missing? You see? And that's a question that I couldn't get a straight answer from humanity. One of many that I couldn't get an answer from humanity.
Francisco,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but when you say I was still myself, what do you mean with that? I mean, what is myself then? Is it myself means Francisco? What
What is the
myself?
difference from what you see now? I also have that
Yes,
question.
thank you for the question because that will help clarify. Because remember, what I'm trying to explain is what cannot be explained in words. And I'm trying to use
I
the
know.
words that we know so we can at least give some perceptive idea of what took place. Thank you, Ingrid, for that question, because when I say that I was still myself, I want to clarify, thank you for Ingrid, that I did not remember ever being Francisco Valentin. Neither I was
Okay.
recalling me being ever a human being.
Oh.
When I said that I remember that I felt and I knew that I was myself, I was consciousness. I
Mhm.
wasn't a human being. I wasn't Francisco Valentin. In my mind, never crossed my mind that I was something else other than what I thought that I was going to be. That's a question that I got the answer when I returned, and I kept wondering what is it that happened to me. And that's when I said I
Yeah.
did not become anything else. I still was myself. But
Must
that
be.
myself
Okay.
is not Francisco Valentin. Neither did I had gender. Neither did I came from a culture or a society, or I didn't even know that there was such thing as an earth plane.
So it will be maybe like some call could be like the deep eye or presence of soul or consciousness. That's
I
what
would say consciousness,
consciousness.
the same consciousness that is still you, and it was you from the very beginning, and the
Wow.
same consciousness, the same you who's gonna keep reincarnating over and over and over and over again until we finally wake up and then we head back home.
That
But
is and always will be.
So
that's another
could
story.
could it be like you felt yourself whole? When you were whole,
No, no.
you
Well,
didn't. I'm trying to understand, like, how is it that you know that you are? Well, were you there was not even emotions, happy, whole, plentiful? Is there anything close to what you could feel? Because there's never words. I know that.
well,
Because for some people, it's like I was joy. I felt this, I felt that. What was your sensation in that void?
let me give you the answer with a question.
Okay.
The question is not a question for you, a question that I asked myself. And the question that I asked myself was, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
So for
Okay.
me to ask myself, where am I realized that I am something.
Mm.
At that
Yes.
didn't
Okay.
point, I didn't know what I was because I did not learn that in school,
Yeah.
for starter.
Right.
Number two, here I am asking myself questions, wondering where I am. Where am I? And that is a question that you can ask yourself only if you acknowledge that you are alive. So I was alive. There was no physical body. I didn't
Right.
have the recollection that ever having a physical body. I was myself.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay.
Wait. The thing is that when I realized that I was in a place, because I what I understood that it was that I was in the void. I was somewhere that I could not recognize. I didn't know where I was. It was total darkness. And
Mm.
in my confusion, I felt uh, kind of lost, confused, and to a certain point
Okay.
afraid because of the uncertainty. Again, I was still myself, so I had my doubts, my uncertainty. I didn't become like some people said that you become an angel and you go why in an awe moment that you don't care about anything. No, where am I? So at that
You were
very
very
point,
aware.
very aware of myself. So
Yes.
at a given point, I felt as I was seeing a dim light approaching me. And when I say that I saw something, I want to clarify that I saw with what Ingrid taught me, that is the eyes of the soul. Uh, because there's no other way that I can explain it other than it was a perceptive expression or impression that I receive so I can relate to it. And then I have to put it into words to explain. But at that moment, I don't need words. Words were not needed. It's just the intent was what was worth at that point. And when I saw that dim light approaching me, I just stayed still. Uh, Again, when I say stay still without a physical body, at the void, I was not standing or sitting down. I was just right. It felt like I was right in the middle of the void because there was no physical body. As that light approached me, it started swirling around me in a counterclockwise direction. And I began to feel this peace and love so
All
over
around you. all
all
around you.
around me. I mean, as they swirl around me, it's not that something came to me, it's just that I felt the love and the peace that they were bringing me.
And what was it? What was this cloud, Francisco? What would you say that was? Like a spirit? Like
Well, eventually, I realized at the moment when I was swirling that was swirling around me, I felt the presence of something that was alive. In other words, it was not a machine, it was not a
Yeah.
cloud, it was something that had an essence. And
oh,
that essence was giving off an intent. And
oh,
that intent was to bring me peace.
Oh,
oh,
Uh,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
some people, and I even said that I felt love, but I'm very skeptical about the word love because word is a very broad concept that has many definitions.
Yes.
Love for a mother, like a father, love for a loved one, love for the child, love for earth, and so forth, different type of loves. But peace is only one. And
Yeah.
that's what I
I
was
love that.
bathed in that peace that has that cannot even be described, because even the peace that you can feel even when you are here on earth in a meditative state or whatever, it always falls short to the
Yeah.
magnitude of that peace.
And that answered your question, Anna. What were you feeling, Francisco? And it was that it came.
Yes. And what I'm getting is that you said I even was afraid. So that, whatever we want to call it, gave you the peace and the love you were needing, because even though you were not clear where were you, but you knew now that you were surrounded and you got peace and you got love. So that's beautiful.
I think that's the feeling of maybe being held by something, like you're not alone, like that
You're
peace.
not alone.
Yeah, but I want to keep myself as as the analytical in me. I want
Yes.
to keep it
I
that
agree.
way
Okay.
because I know that if I were and this is the idea this is the thing with perception. Having born in a Catholic environment, knowing that really, I mean, I went to Catholic school, so you're having a Christian belief, and it was being taught even at school on a daily basis. So that was, I mean, not once a week on Sunday. I mean, I had to study religion, so I knew. Yeah, I knew.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. You were
I was supposed to know.
immersed
So
in the Catholic traditions. Yes.
exactly. So being a Catholic, I could have said that they were angels,
Yeah.
but my inquisitive mind did not allow me to think that way.
Mhm.
So I was seeing what I was seeing, and those were spirits. And because it came with a light, I can call them spirit of light, because that's what they brought. And when they were swirling around me, those clouds were white clouds. In fact, I have an image that I do share with the audience, that when I realized that there was an essence, that it was uh, it was alive, the curiosity in me wanted to see, to be able to attest to what am I looking for? Am I looking at a bunch of clouds swirling around me, or are are those clouds uh, created by something else, an entity, an essence, and the individuality of a spirit or a soul? So, in my curiosity, I took what I can perceive as. Remember that I am not there, it's only my consciousness. But I could see that cloud. As I saw that cloud with the eyes of my soul, I wanted to see a little bit more. And I wanted to turn my face, it wasn't even a face, because I mean, it sounds so
Cloud.
paradoxical. And that's the problem when everybody that had a death experience or near death experience, they start explaining what happened to them, but it's paradoxical because it's just like in dreams that you say, well, I had a dream that I was running and I was there. How are you there if you are sleeping? You see?
And flying, and you don't know. Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
words
flying, crying,
to
having
what you're going through.
conversation, being afraid, being happy. I mean, how can you when you are here? You know? So
Yeah.
so that will help you understand what I'm saying. That I was, but I wasn't, but I was. So so here I am trying to look at that image as the image kept moving. I moved myself with my visual expression and I saw kind of a face that I could not describe, but I did remember that that face looked at me at that very moment, and we crossed not eyesight, but consciousness, and consciousness, both at the same time. We look at each other and we acknowledge our presence with respect. It's just, oh, I acknowledge you, and the entity or whatever it was acknowledging my presence and acknowledging that I'm acknowledging its presence. It was a beautiful split second exchange of good intentions between we both. And suddenly, having this peace all around me, I suddenly see, not see, but felt like a dark cloud overcasting everything around us, the whole environment. And it was like a powerful thing, but powerful in a nice way. But I'm still reluctant and I don't want to call it God because most people will say, oh, I was swirled by angels and then God came before me. No, because that dark, it seems like a dark presence, but so powerful in a good way that I felt it like in an awe. But next thing I know, I am getting into this funnel that was getting narrower and narrower. And as I passed through that narrowing passage, the physical pain became so intense that I couldn't take it anymore. I took my first breath and I opened my eyes. And that's when I returned to my physical body. How do I know? Because the moment I opened my eyes, they were taking me out of the car.
Wow, Francisco, that feels
Now,
so like a
Do you know
reborn, like you
how
were
much
born
time
again.
passed? Yes, exactly. It's like being in the womb and
okay,
suddenly how much time passed?
the accident took place around 4 p.m., close to 4 p.m., and I was being removed from the car close to 6 p.m.
Wow, two
So
hours.
I was
Wow.
there for 2 hours, and someone took me when I assumed that I started with my vital signs, and someone said that I was alive, and they took me out of the car. The story is extensive, and we're limited in time, but I will share that with you. If you keep following us, I'll share that with you in another occasion. But in essence, for those who wonder, so what happened to me? How did I survive? Well, I still don't know how I survived because the impact was so great. And as I said, the driver's door ended up by the center console. I'm supposed to be cut in half. I'm supposed to be bedridden, paraplegic.
Yes.
And I have and even though you can see my full body, no, I lost I mean, I had such an internal bleeding because of the impact that I had broken pelvic bone, three broken ribs, one of the one of the metal strip of the door pierced my rib
Oh,
cage. It punctured my lung. If the lung collapsed, it severed my spleen, and it couldn't be repaired, and it lodged into my kidney. As a matter of fact, the only reason why I was able to survive was that because I was not, my heart stopped, and it stopped the bleeding. Because if when I did the research many years after that, I learned that the spleen ruptured at the level that I was, I would have bled to death within an hour or so, and
Because
I
of the
didn't.
pumping heart, of course, you would have, if it's
Exactly, with the,
pumping, it starts draining it out. Yeah.
plus
Wow.
all the internal bleedings, because it punctured my kidney, then my kidney filters my blood, so my kidney is full of blood also. The kidney, the spleen, and the multiple fractures and internal bleeding. People say that I was bleeding in all my orifice,
Oh
all of
my.
my orifice.
Wow.
So I had to go through an exploratory surgery, which is that they open you from here up down to the belly. They open up
To see what they find.
and
Yeah.
see what they find.
Yeesh.
And they found that they had to remove my spleen, and uh, and I had to go through, after surgery. I spent 3 days in the ICU, intensive care unit, because they didn't know if I was gonna make it or not. I had lost a lot of blood because I did not. They took me out of the car at 6 p.m., but I didn't go to surgery until after 9 p.m. So those many hours, the two
You're
hours,
bleeding.
the two
Wow.
hours allow me to come back. But the remaining hours was me, uh, just dripping blood constantly, and until I got to surgery, I didn't get blood transfusion. Uh,
Isco, that's why I think, and I repeat again, like this was like a reborn. Like
yeah, I could say that.
you're back again. Oh,
There's a bunch of speculations because the magnitude of the impact and the time that I was dead plus the time that I was alive does not make sense at all.
No.
And with that impact and still being able to walk, I
mm,
must have had a spiritual barrier that somehow it could have protected me. Because not only did I receive the direct impact of the car, but I was with my friend, and my friend was the passenger. And if you know a little bit of, of physics, the inertia that when I was pushed, my friend must have banged against me, creating an additional pressure. And
Both
when
sides.
in both sides, because he's a moving part. I mean, if I wouldn't have anything else, I would have ended in the passenger seat.
you
And
became like
okay,
a
I
sandwich.
excuse me.
You were like a sandwich.
Yeah, because my here I am, and here's my friend at the impact.
Yeesh.
Because of the inertia, he's gonna go into this direction because the whole
Of
car is
course.
moving this way.
Goes back.
So
Right.
he's sandwiching me right there, it's increasing the pressure. And then the car must have moved about 10 feet because of the impact.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
when it stopped, of course, the moment that it stopped, I laid on top of him. And as a matter of fact, when I asked him many, many years later, uh, I asked him, was I dead? And and I will never forget his reaction. He just looked at me. He asked me, because we were at the class reunion in the year 2000 and something, and of course, after all these many revelations that I realized that I died and all that stuff, I asked him, was I dead? I mean, you were next to me. You're the only one that can tell me, was I dead? So he looked at me. He didn't say a word. He told me to follow him. We went to the backyard of the house. He lit up a cigarette and he told me very seriously, you were dead. You were
And,
dead on top of my lap for
Mm.
about 5 minutes before they removed me from the car. You were
um,
dead.
and what happened to
And
him,
let me
Francis? Francisco? Like, was he seriously injured too, or
Oh
how?
yeah, he had to go to the hospital and he had bruises all over the place. But remember, I was as I was sandwiched, I served as a cushion.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he got all
And let
messed
me,
up, but he was okay. I
But
mean,
I think, he has to be like, he had to be like a witness. That's one of the teachings
that's
I have
exactly.
received all my life. There's always going to be witnesses,
oh yeah,
because now
yeah.
he could.
But let me tell you why this is important, because I think the three of us, and you're going to hear our stories, have these witnesses or this way to prove that death was really there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our physical bodies died, they passed. So this is why, I mean, and I want to remind this, that's why we're talking, it's never about death. It was always about living. So
Yeah.
it is that's the reason why we're doing this. And this is important what you're mentioning, Francisco, because it is it's for people to know that there is a way that we ourselves are surprised. How can we be alive? So in
Yeah.
dying is when we're really living, because none of us three are supposed to be here. And the fact that you mentioned the doctors, the witnesses, the 2 hours, all that anybody can investigate. I mean, this is not a lie. This is not a made up story. Francisco is here, and there's a lot of ways we can prove that this accident was true, and that even his friend, like Ingrid said, had him dead in his arms. Wow. Thank you. Go on.
Yeah,
Just
it's
wanted
like,
to
for
point
example,
that.
for example, people can say that's impossible. You know, you are here in full body, and you see that car, and you see my body, and you say, what evidence do you have? Well, I can show you my scars. That will be more than enough if I show you the scar that I have from here down to my belly because of the exploratory surgery. I cannot
Wow.
make that up. Here's the scar, you know. But anyway,
Yes.
keeping up with the story. Uh, oh, to finish the story, and this is something that I seldomly share. It just crossed my mind because there's so many things that happen. Uh, when I asked him, my friend, when I asked him, was I dead, and he replied, I told him, why didn't you tell me?
Mm.
And he looked at me and he said, how could I? When I was at the hospital and I asked for you, they told me that you were alive. So how could I? And that comes to mind the fact that we were kids. So how could he said at that moment, no, he can't be alive because he was dead? How do you think they're gonna take him?
Mm.
Same thing happened to me. How could I say
Not
that I
seriously.
died?
Not seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't. In fact, when I tried to
It's
explain what happened to
difficult. Yeah.
me, although I did not know that I was dead, I was just trying to explain the experience, what I saw, where I was, and how confused I was. I was immediately shut down by my family, my culture, religion, even science and history because of the things that I brought back with me. So that's when I said, you know what? I'm gonna keep it to myself and take it to the grave. As a reminder,
Welcome to the club,
oh yeah.
right,
So
Ingrid? Welcome to the
as
club.
a
I think
reminder,
we all have
Yeah.
this story.
to all those folks that might have had that such an experience, have gone through similar situations. In my particular case, someone once told me at that very moment, "Why don't you go to the priest? He might help you." And I said, "Of course. Why didn't it occur to me?"
Yeah.
So I went to the priest, I went to the confessionary, I did all the things that you have to say before you do the confession. I speak I speak the truth that I knew at that time. And the next thing I know is that the priest asked me to do I don't know how many Hail Marys and the Father prayer. And I said, what did I do wrong?
So now you're
He,
punished.
yeah, why am I being punished? He
Yeah.
didn't answer any of
Wow.
my questions. He just
It's difficult.
he just did his job and he said, "Do I don't know how many." Okay, that's it. And I'll never forget. I remember now when I got out of the confessionary and I just sat in, those long wooden chairs that you sit and do the
Did
praying,
you?
The
Mhm.
benches.
the benches. And here I am trying to do the Lord's Prayer, but at the same time saying, this is not right. Why am I doing this? I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I being punished? And that's when I said, I'm gonna keep it to myself and take it to the grave. So everything was good and dandy. I got married. I had 3 children. Uh, but one detail that I want to bring forward is that I I was still wondering what happened to me, and I was looking for answers. So I started getting every single book that I could get a hold of. And I started trying to read to find out what happened to me. And here's first book. No, that's not it. Another one. No, that's not it. And another one. Maybe kind of, but not quite. So I kept looking and looking and looking. And that was when I learned my first lesson. Don't believe everything that you read. Nevertheless, even though I had a family, I kept searching because this is my everlasting quest to find the answers to what happened to me. Remember, we're talking back in 1979. I was only 18. I was a child. Not also that, but we're talking about I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, a small island in the Caribbean. So all I had was a few libraries and a few bookstores, and that's not a subject that you're going to find easily.
No internet.
And no internet, that was out of the question. Not even in my wildest dreams that something like internet was going to exist. We
And
relied
no
on
believers
books.
in near-death experiences, or there was nothing back then.
No,
It
nobody
was
back then knew anything.
No,
you couldn't talk to anybody about it.
later,
Wow.
I found out that there was very little information about it, but not accessible where I was, you know?
And I want to make something clear that I have mentioned to you, Francisco, before, is that even nowadays people talk a lot about near death, but you and us, we have talked about each other about this, and is that for you, you would not even call it a near death,
No, I
you
don't.
a death experience.
It
You
is
Death
a death
experience.
experience.
actually
I
died.
agree.
Yes.
And later, I know you can tell us the difference of how you know it's a death experience and a near death, because you have had both. So
Mhm.
I want to bring that to clarity.
Yes, yes. Near-death experience is a term that was given
Point.
in the mid
Raymond Moody.
70s by Raymond Moody
Mm-hmm.
while he was doing some research. But after that, the word near-death experience have keep expanding, giving so many definitions that, in my opinion, that's what it does is keep confusing people. I rather say that it was a spiritual experience because
Yeah.
there's so many, and I don't want anyone to say, "Well, something happened to me, but not quite. So how am I going to call it? Call it a spiritual experience for
Yeah.
all matters." In my case, it was a death experience because I experienced death and coming back. Okay. Now, moving forward, everything was good and dandy. I married. I had 3 beautiful children who are today 3 adults. I'm even a grandfather today. Uh, but everything was good and dandy until one day. And the day was July 7th, 2011, when approximately at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, a spirit of light manifested through my son's voice. In other words, my 20-year-old at the time went to a never before spiritual trance, and the spirit of light spoke through his voice, to remind me of an agreement that took place back in 1979 in return for my life. But first, that spirit of light manifesting through my son's voice answered all those questions that I couldn't get a straight answer from humanity. Remember at first that I was looking
Yes,
for answers
yes.
from humanity and then never got them? And before it left, it granted me what I learned to call higher truth, so I can finish my lifelong quest and begin my work. With this, what I'm going to tell you is that the limited information that I was able to bring forward, that limited information already got me in trouble
Mm.
because people didn't understand it. Neither could I understand if that message or agreement would have been brought forward with me. I would have been called a lunatic. I mean, an
Of
18-year-old
course,
old
of course.
speaking
Yeah.
this language. I mean, I don't even want to think about it now that I think about it.
It's scary.
It is scary.
They would have thought he really lost the, like when they thought he
Like
was gonna
what?
Yeah,
become just a brain
With
dead.
no oxygen,
yeah. We
brain
lost them.
damage.
We
Francisco's
lost
got
them.
brain damage.
Anyways, but seriously, uh, what and let me tell you how it happened because it is quite impressive. What happened to me that evening is that I was spending time alone, time with my 20-year-old at the time because he was going to college. It was a summer day. He was on summer vacation. My wife was traveling on a business travel, and my youngest daughter was studying abroad in one of those exchange programs that they have. And my oldest daughter, she was already, totally independent. She wasn't home, but we were home. So it was. I think no, I know that it was planned that way, so we can be
Yeah,
alone,
it was orchestrated.
Of
orchestrated.
course, yeah. God
But at
works
that
in
time,
mysterious ways.
exactly. But that's now, today. Way when that happened, I had no clue that what's going on. So here I am spending time with my 20-year-old son. We had a great day, having conversation, eating our favorite dish at that time. So when we were ready to call it the night, I gave my son the usual hug. I love you, son. We'll talk tomorrow. And that's when he said, "Wait, Dad, I want to show you a piece of music that I like to listen to when I do meditation." And I was kind of tired, kind of reluctant, but something compelled me to say, "Okay, uh,
Mm.
let me go to the restroom and I'll be back." So when I come back from the restroom, I want to clarify that I was barefooted, meaning that he could not hear my steps. By the time I was approaching his room, I already was listening to the music, which was pretty loud, I must say. And when I get close enough to be next to the door frame, I saw him facing the wall, moving his head rhythmically. And the first thing that crossed my mind, well, he's listening to the music and going along with the beat. Okay, that's fine. But suddenly he said, "Look, Dad, I can see orbs all around me. It's so beautiful, but we're one." And that's when I realized that he couldn't have heard me. He was facing against the wall. And as I approached, I realized that he had his eyes closed. And that's when I said to myself, well, this guy is planning a prank on me. So let's see what happens. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he kept moving his head rhythmically with his eyes closed. And he said, I can see beautiful orbs all around me, but we are one." And I said, "What do you mean we are one?" Now, keep in mind at that time, that phrase, "we are one," was not in my vocabulary.
No,
It
no,
wasn't even
and not many people. No.
exactly, it wasn't an expression that wasn't commonly heard back then. Now today everybody's saying we're one, and they don't even know what that means, by the way.
Mm.
And and here I am, and I say, "What do you mean we're one?" And that's when his voice turned unemotional, and he said, "I mean we're one." And that's when I said, "Okay, the joke is going a little bit too far, you know." But I kept going, and I wanted to see how far he can go. That is what's going in my mind. So I said, "Well, how everything started." Because I knew kind of, based on what but my son was raised as a Christian because we come from a Catholic Christian belief system, and we wanted to at that time bring that same belief system to my children because my wife was very, very Catholic Christian. And like I said before, I kept my knowledge to myself. And I wasn't going to go against religion because religion and politics, that's a boom. That's a that's a no-no. So I went along and said, okay, let's play it safe. Let's keep raising them Christian because nevertheless is it brings some uh profoundness and good intentions to my children. uh so what happened was that at that moment I thought that he was still pranking me, so I started asking questions, and he was giving me an answer, and I wanted to get him off and trying to give me another answer to my question. So I asked the same question in a different way, but I kept receiving the same answer. And that's when I realized that there was something a little bit off because he wasn't getting out because I was trying to make him so uncomfortable that he would say, okay, I get you, it was a joke, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't happen. And he kept answering my questions, and I kept, digging a little bit more, and I kept getting an answer, and I kept digging more, and I kept getting an answer. But I knew that that answer didn't come from him because I know my son. I know his mental capacity, and the answers that he was giving me, they were a little bit too profound for him.
Mm.
And there was a point in which I was formulating the question in my head, and without me finishing formulating them, they were being already answered. And that bugged the heck out of me. And it got to the point that I said, but what am I doing here? And that's when my son stopped moving his head. He stood up, turned to me because I was standing. He was sitting and I kept standing. Opened his eyes, and he very energetically he said, "Don't you remember you and I agreed for me to come down and you help me do my job?" He closed his eyes, turned his head, sat down, began to move his head rhythmically, and I just surrendered.
Wow.
I just surrendered.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, a few more questions came to me, and that's something that I want to share with you. If you go to my webpage and you go to the transcript page, and you're going to see in the table of content the first transcript, which I'll explain what happened after that. I
I
don't know
want to
how
go
to.
back a little bit. Tell me again, because I got a little bit confused, and maybe the people that are listening too. So this being turns around and looks at you and talks to you. Don't you remember? Can you give me the words again?
Don't you remember you and I agreed for me to come down for you to help me do my job?
So you're talking that he had to come down, or that person had to come down, or you had to come back to do your job. That's where I got confused. So
Ah,
that
that's
being said, don't you remember I was supposed to come down for you to help me do my job? So
yes.
who's talking?
Yeah. Did you remember anything at
Well,
that
I
point? Did
mean,
you
wow. I just want to
well,
clarify
That's
that.
a
let
lot.
me finish this little part for the
Yes, yes,
audience,
yes.
and then answer that question,
Yeah,
and don't let me miss that very question,
yeah, because
because
we
I
have to unpack this more, Francisco.
yeah, I often drift away and I keep talking, and I get lost in
That's
talking.
why I
So
wanted to stop because I know many others would have that question.
yes, uh, after the event took place, I and the spirit of light departed. I asked my son, "Do you remember what happened?" And he looked at me and he said, "Yes, I do remember every single bit of it." Later, he clarified that he remembered as if he always had known. And I say this because what we're doing here is remembering. We're not learning, we're just remembering.
Remembering.
And he, with his words, he ratified that he remembers as if he always had known. So at that point, I asked him, "And do you remember when you stood up and you looked at me?" And he said, "No, I do not remember that." So imagine how much power that spirit of light must have had to get my son out of the picture, take his body, stand up, open his eyes, tell me what he told me, sit down, and allow my son to return.
So, so your song was actually like channeling, we
He
could
was
say.
channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was channeling.
I mean, he didn't even remember what happened.
And at that
Wow.
point, the spirit took a hold of his body, of his physical body. He's I don't know. I don't know much about this, but my son wasn't allowed to to remember anything because he probably got out of the picture. So it wasn't his it's like if I was saying, okay, this is between you and me. This is what happened. Okay.
Mm.
So okay, now let's go back to business. Okay.
Yeah, so your
Now,
son has nothing to do here. Yeah.
nothing to do with it. Now, to answer that question of yours, Anna, that answer I got many years later because 2011 is the beginning of my story.
Mhm.
And many, many years later, I realized through the transcripts, which I'm going to explain later on what are they, I realized that what happened was that I must have made an agreement in 1979 to for me to return.
Mm.
So that spirit could come down. And when I say come down, we're talking about a language that I can understand at that time. We now know that
Human language,
no one
right?
is coming down. Everything is within inside of us. But
Yeah.
based on religion,
Right.
we keep looking at the sky, and I still trying to figure out why are we looking at the sky
And
when we
everything is
pray,
here and now.
when
Instead of
everything is
looking within.
inside. So, but at
Exactly.
that time, that was the word used for me to understand. So for him to come down, which will be like, let's say for a Christian, come down from heaven, for that spirit to come down, and me helping that spirit do his job, because the spirit cannot talk unless it's through a channeler or a medium. You see, that's the only way
Right.
that they can communicate,
Mm.
through a living entity which can speak a language. So 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 I was brought back to be of service to that spirit who came down from another realm, to come down to a level where we could meet, because when a channeler get information, or a medium, the channeler has to increase its vibrational level so they can meet half point, because an ascended master, for example, will have to go
Correct.
down to this level so we
Mm.
can communicate.
Yeah,
And
but
the
that
commun
also means that
Yeah.
your son is a very amazing, incredible, pure soul.
Yes, I
Can
guess
see
so.
it.
I guess so. But in honest truth, he just wants to stay away from it. I mean, he just don't want to. To me, I think he got traumatized or something like that.
Oh my
He
God. But
doesn't
he's
want
a
to.
good kid. He has to be to meet that frequency. I mean,
Oh yes,
it
oh
would
yes,
not happen if he was just like, I don't know.
Not
yeah.
anybody can just get there.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, in fact, now that you mentioned that, I need to clarify that I didn't know back then, but now through many years, I learned. My mother was a transmedium, so I come from a lineage, and from that
Oh,
lineage, I
that makes sense.
somehow between the lineage and the spirit and the spiritual experience that I had in 1979 and the agreement that I made allowed me to be a channeler, and my son, because he comes from the same lineage, he does have the ability. But
Yeah.
like every 20 some year old, they don't want to get into that. I mean, my son is
It's
very,
not the time. It will
yeah,
be. It's
yeah,
not the
he
time.
he needs to grow a little bit more before he can embrace it. I assume. uh but keeping up with the story, uh that night, I went to bed, and the following day, I woke up with this urge to write. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a writer. I don't like to read. I only read it what I needed to read because I was interested in knowing what the heck happened to me. But other than that, I'm not a reader. I don't like. I mean, you asked me to read a novel, and I said, "Nah, just give me the movie." I'm not a reader. I'm not a writer. But someone I had this urge to write. And I said, what am I going to write? I mean, I use the computer just to, just watch movies, Google things, go on YouTube and things like that. But to write, no. So I opened my computer, and when I began to type, I realized that I was transcribing verbatim, word by word, what took place the night before.
Wow.
You may call it automatic writing because I cannot find any other term. And it wasn't me because I know my limitations, and I do not have such a sharp memory to repeat
Yet.
word by word what happened to me. Not only to the extent, but also with the precise words that were used. And that's something that you can read when you go to my webpage and you go to the transcript page and you go to the table of content and you find that first transcript. It is right on top, first transcript. And the first transcript give you in 775 words the answers to my questions. All those answers that I couldn't get a hold of, I couldn't get an answer from humanity, they were given to me. But let me give you a caveat. They were based on the limited knowledge that I had at the time with my Christian beliefs and limitations. So it is being, my questions were answered in a simplified way so
Mm-hmm.
I could understand, not the way those transcripts are written, because that's another story. And is that the following days and days after, up to today, I began to wake up in between 1 and 3 a.m. And I began to receive all this information that I understood so perfectly, yet they were so complex in its content and its words, but I understood them so clearly, like 1 plus 1 is 2. Yet they were like algebraic equations that a 5 year old could not get answers to it. Yet I understood perfectly. So I
Wow.
began to transcribe them. And those are what I call the transcripts. And those transcripts are insights of higher truth given by a group of ascended masters that are chosen to be known as the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. And those transcripts speak about our true origin and true purpose of life
Wow.
without theological ties this time around. And that's the purpose of those transcripts. Uh, Now, going back to the day that I came back from 1979, I must clarify that when I when those uh, remember that I just said that they were insights of higher truth. Those
Mhm.
insights of higher truth, and also that they gave me what I understand or embrace as higher truth. They manifested in me like a life review. You know,
Oh,
the life review, when people say that when you die, you go to somewhere and then you have a life review in front of you, and you know, it's too late. There's nothing you can do about
yes.
it. Now you have to look and fix it up. But I was given that chance to do it in life.
Okay.
So that life review immediately took me back to 1979 when I realized. Now let me clarify. When I say a life review, what I'm saying is that I was looking at things as the observer.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are the actor, you're just seeing your perspective, what you want to see, what you know from your predispositions, and you're stuck with that. When you become the observer, you are the one looking at the whole scenery, and you see what you did to that other, what happened in between, and all involved. And that's when you said, what did I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in my case, it wasn't much of what did I do, but what did I miss? So in this particular case, when high truth manifested in me, that's when I realized that in 1979, yes, I indeed died to
Mm.
ratify that there is life after death.
Yeah.
Same place, same way, that very higher truth or life review, which is like little spark of memory recall, but as the observer, made me realize that in 1979 I died, but also that in the year 2000, my mother had a near death experience, a very, very spiritual experience that today I just am baffled about it, in which she died and came back and she wanted to do some legal arrangement because something had to be done about it.
Wow.
But I didn't see it at the time. It's just like my death experience. I didn't know that I died. Now I know that I died. In the year 2000, my mother had a near death experience, and it was a beautiful experience to learn that there is divine intervention.
Mm.
Same life review made me realize later on that in the year 2002 I had a near death experience where I felt my physical body being detached to my ethereal body, and I was being taken little by little uh, from the physical to the spiritual, and then I was let go when I heard a voice far far away saying, no, you cannot leave me, you cannot go. And it was my lovely wife calling upon me. So whatever was taking me, let me go.
And
And
what
that,
happened, Francisco? How did you have a?
well, it was a day like any other day, and I just when I opened my eyes just to wake up, just like every regular natural day, I just woke up, I opened my eyes, but all I saw was like a white veil covering everything. I mean, I could see through because it was a veil.
Oh,
It wasn't just a piece of whiteboard in front of me. I could see everything, but everything was white. So I closed my eyes, kind of, trying to see what happened. And when I close my eyes, I still see all that white
Yeah.
veil around me. And suddenly I begin to feel that like my physical body was fading away while my ethereal body or spiritual body, whatever you want to call it, was blooming. It's like I use the analogy of the balloon full of air. I had one balloon full of air here, and then I had another balloon here, one with air, one with no air, and I just touched both of them. I opened one of them, the lip of one, and the other for the air to be transferred to the other balloon. That's exactly how it felt. Like I was transitioning from the physical to the spiritual.
And physically, you were like fainting, or what
You
did your wife?
you
What
can
was
you
your
can
wife seeing?
You can say that. Well, I was just in bed. Like I said, I was just walking in bed, open my eyes, close my eyes. Next thing I know, I'm closing my eyes and I'm fading away. And as I fade away, I remember that I touched my wife and I said, "I love you. I love my children. Tell them that I love them." That's when she went nuts.
Oh my God.
But I
Wow.
was in such a peace. I mean, it was so peaceful. I did not worry about leaving my wife or my kids. I mean, I've been an insurance agent all my life, so all my financials were, I mean, I was worth more dead than alive. I mean, I would have let them, very well set up. But although many people will say, "Well, why you did not think of your wife or kids?" No, I did not.
No, I know what you
I
mean.
I
just did
understand
not.
that. Yeah,
But I
I
can
understand that.
I cannot feel guilt about it because I mean, it's something that I cannot explain. It's
It is
just
what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
exactly. I was just going from one stage to
Action.
the other. Uh, I don't know if I was gonna go all the way or not, but when the paramedics came, of course, through that period of time, I was transitioning. When I was let go, I was let go, and I was coming back. Not just like that. I mean, I was as I was fading away, I was coming back in the same way. But when the paramedics came in, I do remember when one of them said that my blood pressure was extremely low. Then they took me to the hospital. They did all the tests that they did, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. Nothing. Nothing. If I would have died, they would have said that I died from a heart attack.
Mm.
But in
Yes.
truth, I would
Because the
have
heart
just
stopped.
transcended. And I
Yeah.
was
Exactly.
fading away. My pulse, my heartbeat was keep going down and down and down until I just fade away. But for the human world, from the physical world and science and everything, oh poor guy, he died from a heart attack. No, I
Yeah.
didn't. I wouldn't have. I was perfectly. I mean, they couldn't find anything, but because
You
the
were
the
just beautifully passing,
exactly.
Yes.
But
as
I was
natural as being born.
exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
But I do certainly believe for sure that it was not for me to do the transition yet. It was for me to learn a lesson because in the life review, I learned that I was done for me to learn how perception works.
Mm.
Uh, how do that relate to that experience? That's something that I explain in my when I do my lectures because I do an exercise for people to learn how perception works, and I want to share that with the audience on a
No,
future
yes.
episode
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
because each one of us has a lot to talk about.
Wow. Yeah, and we
Oh,
need
yeah.
to keep some for later, Francisco, because
Exactly. I
wow,
cannot
there's
bring everything in
Wow. I
one
didn't know
time.
this story, Francisco. It's
There's a
amazing how we're getting to know each other more and more and more.
Yeah,
yeah.
and there's a lot because I've never talked about, for example, what happened with my friend in the car. It's something that slipped my mind constantly. So as I keep going through the story, things keep popping up. Not all at once because I will never finish, but
Yeah.
little things I bring to the table. Uh, so going back to that experience in the year 2000, uh, uh, the medical field did not find anything, but they had to put something in the chart, and they put gastritis. Yeah, gastritis. Yeah, I just woke up. I didn't have breakfast, and I'm already having gastritis. But I mean, the
Something
insurance.
has to be written
And you're
there for the
fading
insurance.
Exactly.
happily.
The paperwork had to be filled out. So let's put this because I cannot put anything else because there was nothing else.
There was no
Okay.
explanation. Yeah.
So that was that life review. Then on another life review, I learned that in the year 2000, 2002, 2010, I had a prophecy was given to me. Now that one I want to tell you the story because it's a funny story, very very interesting. Because within that life review, I realized that I was being taught through my lifetime between my readings and what I was being taught from firsthand experience that there's life after death, that there's divine intervention, how perception works in the spirit world. But I didn't see any of that because I was so involved in the physical world that I just didn't pay attention to that. And I want to give this, I want to stress this out for the listener because as I did, many people go through different spiritual experiences. And because of the culture, religion, or whatever reason, they are dismissed. And you should pay a closer attention to those experiences because look what happened to me. I dismissed the fact that I had died in 1971. I could have been convinced that nothing happened to me and that was a dream. In the year 2000, I could have been convinced by the doctor who told me when I asked him what happened to my mother, and he said, "Well, those things happen once in a while." Yeah, a near
Yeah.
death
Right.
once in a
Yeah.
while, but I did believe him, and I just
Yeah.
put it aside. Then in the year 2002, I could have said, I could have believed the system and I could have said, well, probably could be anxiety or depression or whatever,
Yeah.
They couldn't give me any medication because they couldn't find anything. Otherwise, I would have been full of pills. But this time I did pay attention to it. So what happened was that when we moved to this new place, there was a business that started giving yoga classes and things like that. So they put an announcement on the local paper. My wife read it and she said, "Oh, they're gonna give meditation classes nearby, right around the corner. I want to try it." So I said, "Okay." So let me go ahead and please my lovely wife. Although I never been able to meditate as hard as I tried, let's give it a try. So, okay, so we go to this place. Here's the guy giving us a lecture. After the lecture, he goes and he put us on meditation he gave us about 10, 15 minutes of meditation before that little thing that goes cling comes up and then you get out of your
That's
meditative
it. You wake
state.
up.
The bell.
The bell.
The
Let's
bell.
call it the bell. Okay. I know it has another name, but I don't remember
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
It's like a Tibetan, or I don't know, like Tibetan.
Something like that. You see, that proves that I'm not involved in any of that. so, so what happened was that he finished his lecture. Okay, let's go meditate. So he goes and asked everybody to go to meditate. So here I am, closing my eyes, just waiting for that little bell to ring, because I've never meditated. I don't know why I can't meditate. So the bell goes, cling. Okay, I'm
Oh,
just
I'm done.
pleasing
I'm
my
done.
wife. Okay, so she loved it, and
Oh,
she said, "Oh, let's do it again. Let's go next week and do it again." So
and
okay.
you, as a good husband, had to please
Oh
your wife.
yes, I was, let's do it. Let's do it. Uh,
Francisco, it's called Kinin Bell.
Keening.
Keening Bell.
Keening Bell.
Keening
Thank
Bell.
you.
So
Keening
good.
Bell.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Anna.
So here I am, second time. He does his lecture. We have our 15 minutes. Here I am meditating, waiting for that little bell, kidding, or whatever, call it
Keening.
bell.
Keening the
Let's
bell.
call it bell. That little bell
Right.
go cling. Okay, good for you. Oh, but no, I want to do it again. Okay, okay. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and please you for the third time. But this time, this is what happened. Here I am meditating, trying to meditate, when suddenly 5 seconds. I didn't say 5 minutes. I said 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds before the little bell rang. I go into a spiral. And when I touched bottom, an inner voice said, from now on, you're not going to learn from outside sources. And moving forward, everything is going to learn from within. Cling. And here I am. I
Wow.
just
That's a
got off this
message.
meditating state.
Wow.
I was so angry, so upset. And you might wonder why, because I've never was able to meditate. And suddenly, when I'm ready to meditate, that little bell rang and I couldn't ask any questions. Well, I
Wow.
wasn't allowed to. That's what I learned afterward. I wasn't allowed to. But I did pay attention to that. I stopped my readings. And what was prophesied in 2010 came to pass on July 7, 2011, when a spirit of light manifested through my son's voice, gave me higher truth, and I began to transcribe information about the origin and purpose of light, which I learned
From within.
from within.
Good thing.
Wow.
Super.
Wow.
So that's when I realized that I spent a whole lifetime being taught to get to this level where that spirit of light could have come down enough and meet with me at that level. So if you go back to my story from my death experience to my near death experience with my mother, and all those experiences that I kept having, and I bet you I had many more that I'm not disclosing because I might have taken as natural process of natural learning process, but I don't know if they were little lessons that I was being given. I bet you they were.
I think you
Yeah.
were peeling layers, Francisco, peeling the layers like we can call it different ways, or just letting your light through, or I don't know, removing veils until you were able to match the vibration. But
Exactly. If that could have been given prior to, I wasn't ready. Period. I
mhm,
wasn't ready.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And the surrendering that I did when the spirit of light gave me that reminder, when I say that I surrender, is because I did surrender. And
Mhm.
upon surrendering, I opened myself to receive all this information because I did not question. I just surrendered. And as
Wow.
I surrender, I opened the door to get that information through. And
Mhm.
that is why, first of all, I was able to transcribe verbatim, which means that I was probably for the first time ever on a spiritual trance myself, typing the content of the event of the night before. And as I opened myself to do the automatic writing because of my surrendering, I was able to, the night after that, being able to download that information because I opened myself in my surrender. And ever since, I keep surrendering. And as I
Wow.
surrender, I am allowed to still receive that information. If you go to my webpage and you start reading the transcript, you're gonna see actually I have over 500 transcripts, and I'm still working with 2012. Because the transcripts are written and are categorized by session. The numbers
Yeah.
of the transcript go by the year, the month, the day, the time of that transcription.
And
So
we'll have the link to your website and
yes,
the
if
bottom
the
of the
audience go
video.
to the website and look at the transcript, each transcript will have a title to help you a little bit better, because if I give
Mhm.
you a bunch of numbers, you're going to say what the subject is about. So I give you a glimpse of the subject, but when you read the transcript, you know that it was made in the year 2011 or 2012, the month, the day, and the hour it took place. You see, either in the morning, and because I kept developing this skill, I was able to not only transcribe during the night but throughout the day. And that way, because I mean, I had to make a deal with them, because I said, no, no, you cannot keep doing this. I mean, waking up between 1 and 3 in the morning, I have a life. I mean, once you wake me up and I start transcribing, it's hard for me to go back to sleep.
And for how long did you write at that time? For an
Well,
hour or?
there are transcriptions of recordings, because at first I started to type it and write it down, and no, 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 I can't do that. I mean, I could barely turn the light because my wife is sleeping next to me. I cannot open the computer because I won't, the typing will not
Wake
type.
up
I mean,
everybody,
I
yeah.
had to go to another room to do it, and that was terrible on me. I mean, I actually got burned. So I asked him to please give me a break, but at first they were there were times where when I was recording for a full hour, and
Wow.
sometimes around an hour and a half. And for those who know what channeling is, it draws so much energy from you that actually whenever I do, I no longer do live lectures, but whenever I did live lectures, my wife had to drive me home because I was so drained, because 90% of my lectures are channeling. And in fact, I don't share this with many people, but when I do this this speaking engagement like I'm doing today, 50% of the time I'm channeling. And sometimes I notice, sometimes I don't notice, sometimes I say words that are very profound, sometimes I don't. So it come and goes. But the energy is very intense. My temperature goes up. I start sweating uh, because of the energy that it takes. Especially, I mean, there have been lectures that I have said things that I then go, I said that. I
I
will
say,
never forget one lecture that I was giving at a metaphysical group, and we were talking about reincarnation and karma and all that stuff. And at the end, I said the words, so I mean, we need to become one, because we're one and so forth. And then I said, because you guys are dragging me. You're dragging me. And after that, I said, what did I say? I mean, people might take it bad, but it's something that came out. And at times I get this, one time I got disconnected and I go blank and I say, okay, what happened? Oh, it's because they wanted me to talk about this subject.
Wow,
mm,
Francisco, pero we will have to do
wow, this is,
and yeah, where you're going to bring all this stuff to me, like the Spanish get mixed because I am so focused in listening to
Yeah, I
what
know, I
you're
know.
saying that it's just like, oh my God. But I think that for now, we have today call it
to
good because
wrap up.
Yeah, we need to wrap
Yeah.
up. We don't want to make it too long, but we have so much. This is good because we have so much to share for future episodes. But it is amazing that people are getting to know you more. That, oh Lord, this is a gift that all of us have been brought together and in this beautiful, incredible spiritual family.
Yes,
In
yes. No,
dying, I
I,
began to live. Yes.
no, and I thank you very much for stopping me, because if you let me, like I said, when I'm channeling, I keep talking and talking and talking and talking and talking.
I see that
Although,
in your there now, like, I think we have to just end this episode today. That
yes,
way,
let's cut it up right now. Yeah,
yes, that way people feel like, oh, how long, how many days is going to take me to listen to this episode? But I think it's so good that, hey, it's just 1 hour and 10 minutes.
perfect,
And,
perfect.
and let me tell you something from my point of view, Francisco. This just shows us how much there is for us to share. So the fact that we have some information that Ingrid and I, that we've known you for many years, this is all new for us. Please stay tuned to our next episode. Francisco is going to keep sharing. Each of us is going to keep sharing. So this is just the beginning of an amazing journey we're going to take together with all of you. So Francisco, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for bringing this platform for everyone. Please, people, share it with everyone you know. Uh, a little bit of information to someone might change their lives, and and if you have gone through the experience or know someone that have gone through experience, share this video with them. Let them know that we do exist. Do not keep us as a secret, because we're not gonna get anywhere this way. Share it,
Share, share,
like
share.
it, put likes, do whatever you need to do to help, because the more we are, the faster we're gonna get close to get back home, and that's the whole purpose of
Sharing,
this.
sharing is caring. And remember,
Sharing is
in
caring.
dying is when we really began to live. So don't miss the next episode. Ingrid, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. And we're all here to help each other. Remember,
That's true. That's our purpose. So
thank you.
thank you, everyone.
Thank
Until next
you.
time.
See you next
See you
time.
next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye now.